Alright, today's lesson is 5.4. It's the slope formula. We're going to use the slope formula to find slope when given 2 points, to find slope when given a graph, to find slope when given a table, and then tomorrow in class we're going to find slope for real-world problems. Here's the slope formula. I want you to go ahead and write this down on your paper as soon as it comes in. Keep clicking. So M equals the difference in y values to the difference in x values between any 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2 on the line. The only part of this that I want you to write down is this part right here. The M equals y2 minus y1 on the top over x2 minus x1 on the bottom. Take a minute, make sure you have that written down before you move on.
All right, go ahead and write down number 1 for me. Your 2 ordered pairs here are 2, 5, and 8, 1. The first thing I want you to do when you're given 2 ordered pairs is go ahead and label your ordered pairs right away. The first thing you're going to do, you know that you have x and y, so you're going to say x, and this is my first ordered pair, so 1, y, 1. This is my second ordered pair, so they are x, 2, and y, 2. Right now, this step is not negotiable. This is not an option. You have to do this every single time we give you one of these problems for the time being. The reason being that you're getting ready to plug this into the slope formula. You've written down the slope formula, which again was M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is a really simple process. If you just label your ordered pairs, all you're doing is literally plugging things in and working it out. So you're going to plug in for y2, which you have written right here. Your y2 is labeled as 1, okay? Minus y1, which is 5, over x2, which is 8, minus x1, which is 2. So then we're going to subtract them out. 1 minus 5 gives us 4, and 8 minus 2 gives us 6. So now we're going to, 1 minus 5 gives us negative 4. We're going to reduce this down to negative 2 over 3. And again, if you want to reduce that down in your calculator, you can just type it in as a fraction and hit enter, and it will automatically reduce it down. So what we're left with here is that M equals negative 2 over 3. That's the slope of this line given these 2 points. So get that written down. Pause the video if you need to before you move on. All right, number 2. The ordered pairs that you've been given here are going to be negative 2, negative 2, and 7, negative 2. Write that down, and then we're going to go back and label our ordered pairs. x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, every ordered pair is x and y. I'm just putting the 1 here because this is my first ordered pair, and the 2 here because this is my second ordered pair. I'm going to plug it into my slope formula again, which you don't have to write down every time. I'm only writing it down to remind you that that's what I'm referencing. So it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then I'm going to plug my numbers in. So I have y2, which is negative 2, minus y1, which is negative 2. So just make sure that you're writing your minus sign in between there and that you got both your negatives there. Over here I have x2, which is 7 minus x1, which again is negative 2. Now, anytime I have minus and negative, I'm going to change that to a positive. So this is the same thing as saying negative 2 plus 2 over 7 plus 2. And remember, if you're not sure about that, you can always type it into your calculator, and as long as you use your parentheses and the right minus or negative signs, it's going to give you the right answer. So negative 2 plus 2 gives us 0, and 7 plus 2 gives us 9. 0 divided by 9 equals 0. So the slope of this line, or the M here, is equal to 0. So M equals 0. Make sure that you have all of that down before you move on. You can pause the video now if you need to. Number 3. Your ordered pairs are going to be negative 3, negative 1, and negative 3, negative 5. So again, I'm plugging this into my slope formula, y squared minus, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'm going to plug my numbers in. After I label them, x1, y1, x2, y2. So I have negative 5 minus negative 1 over negative 3 minus negative 3. Again, this is the same thing as having negative 5 plus 1 and negative 3 plus 3. Negative 5 plus 1 is going to give me negative 4. Negative 3 minus 3 is going to give me 0. The problem with this is that when I divide anything by the number 0, my calculator is going to tell me error or undefined. So here the answer is undefined. The slope of this line is undefined. Make sure that you have all of that down before you move on. All right, so now we've covered our first objective, finding slope when given 2 points, and now we're going to find slope when given a graph.
All right, this is number 4. We're going to use the slope formula to find the slope of a line at given points. And again, yesterday we learned how to count the rise over the run given a graph, but today we're actually going to use that slope formula. Again, first of all, we want to label our points. It doesn't matter which one that you pick as your first point and which one you pick as your second point. Here I picked negative 5, negative 2 as my first point, so I'm going to label it x1, y1. This is my second point, 5, 3, so I labeled it x2, y2. I could have very easily made this one my x1, y1, and this one my x2, y2. Does not matter which one. But you do need to make sure that you label them. So we're going to use the slope formula, the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and we're going to plug our points in. So we're going to say 3 minus negative 2 over 5 minus negative 5. And here, these two negatives are going to make a positive plus, and these two negatives are going to make a positive plus. So it becomes 5 over 10. I can't leave it as 5 over 10 because that can be reduced. Again, if you're using your graphing calculator, you can hit the alpha y equals and put in 5 over 10 and hit enter, and it will reduce it for you. But if not, both of those can be divided by 5, and you get 1 over 2. So 1 over 2 is our final slope here. Make sure you leave that as a fraction and you do not turn it into a decimal because it's a slope, and if we were going to graph, we would need to know our rise and our run. Make sure you have this written down before you move on. You do not have to draw the graph. All right, here's number 5. Again, we're given 2 points from this graph, negative 3, 0, and 4, negative 1. So we're going to label those. And again, here I'm going to show you that you can actually, it doesn't matter which one. This time I labeled this one down here x1, y1, and this one x2, y2. Could have very easily switched those, but again, just make sure you label them. Pick one of them to be your first point, one of them to be your second point. We're going to use that slope formula again. We're going to plug in our points. 0 minus negative 1 and negative 3 minus 4. Again, these two negatives right here are going to become a positive. And we're going to get 1 over negative 7. And we're actually going to write that as negative 1 over 7. So make sure you write that with the negative out in front. Take a minute and make sure you have this written down before you move on. All right, so there's finding slope when given a graph. Next, we're going to look at finding slope when given a table.
All right, the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and copy down this table here for number 6. Copy down the table. Your x's are on top. You have negative 2, 0, 2, 4, and 6. Your y's are on the bottom with 3, 0, negative 3, negative 6, and negative 9. Make sure you get that copied down. The goal here is to use the slope formula to find the slope of the line that contains these given points. These points are just written a little bit differently than the normal table that we've given you with the x on this side and the y on this side, but they're exactly the same. It's the same idea. So your x here is negative 2 and your y is 3. Your x here is 0 and your y is 0. So your ordered pairs would be written like negative 2, 3 and 0, 0, and so on and so forth. So the point here is that all you have to do is pick out any 2 points, and I'm actually going to go with these first 2 points here, negative 2 and 3, and 0 and 0. So I'm going to write them over here, -2, 3, and 0, 0, and then I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I'm going to plug them into my slope formula, which again is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 0 minus -2 over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is -2. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I'm sorry. My y1 was 3. I got ahead of myself. My y1 was 3, so it's 0 minus 3 on top and 0 minus -2 on the bottom. I'm sorry. Please correct that if you made that mistake with me. All right, so 0 minus -3 gives us -3 over 0, again, plus a negative, or minus a -2 gives us +2, so that becomes a +2. So 0 plus 2 gives us +2. So we're left with -3 over 2, and that is what our slope equals here, -3 over 2. So that is the slope of this line.
All right, here's number 7. Go ahead and take a minute and write down that table. If you need to pause the video, feel free to do that. All right, now again, when we're finding slope given a table like this, we can pick any 2 points that we want to off of this table. Doesn't matter. I can pick these 2, I can pick, or this one, and I can pick the last one. I can pick 2 in the middle. Does not matter. I can pick the first 2. I just have to pick 2 points off of the table. Here I'm going to pick the 1 and -3 from right here, and the 2 and the -1 from right here, and I'm going to go ahead and label those x1, y1, x2, y2. Then I'm going to use that slope formula and plug in my points. -1 minus -3 over 2 minus 1. Again, these 2 negatives right here are going to turn into a positive plus. And I end up with 2 over 1, which is just 2. So my slope here is 2. And again, I should have gotten 2 no matter which points I used from my table. Take a minute, make sure you have this written down before you move on. And here's actually a graph of what that would look like. Alright, now we've covered the first 3 objectives. We should be able to find the slope given 2 points, find the slope when given a graph, and find the slope when given a table. Tomorrow in class we're going to look at finding the slope for a real-world problem. So this is the end of your video. Thank you for watching.